So, Wes, please introduce yourself and your company and where you're calling from today.
Sure. I'm Wes Arentson, as you said. I work and oversee our logistics sales team at SPS. My group is really focused on 3PLs. So whether that means warehouses or carriers, pretty much anybody who doesn't own the goods that they're storing or moving, that falls to my group.
So, what does SPS Commerce do?
Yeah, so we help connect the retail supply chain. So that means we sit in between the retailers, the vendors, and then all the logistics organizations that make that happen, and ensure that the data is moving. Everybody's talking the same language. All the systems are talking to each other, and the goods at the end of the day are moving where they need to be at the right time, and we're able to optimize that.
Yep. I've been part of this problem before. So, I think anybody who is experienced it, they pay attention when somebody says EDI.
Oh,
I worked on a
absolutely.
project where I was helping a very large shipper select a 3PL, and we picked a great 3PL, and we had a great schedule for like the implementation. We did everything we were supposed to do. We're going to launch on this date. We're going to launch on this date. We're going to launch on this date. And we would kind of have risk assessments. And then one of our risk assessments was, oh, we're not there's a connectivity issue. We have to get, and for people like me, I have quickly pushed into the shallow end while the techies talked, but it added, I want to say 45, 60 days additional. And it was just kind of came out of nowhere for most of us. So I've experienced this, and it was basically, can I get connected? Can I connect the new 3PL to the shipper? And the shipper had been around for a minute. They had kind of legacy systems. It was some acquisitions in between, and it wasn't easy.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And you had asked where I'm calling from. We're located in Minneapolis, Minnesota. So
Very nice, very nice. It's balmy up there this time of year.
Yeah, I think we were 27 this morning.
I'm in Michigan, and the only time I can ever say this, you get on a plane, when you leave, you always know you're going to a warmer place because you live in Minnesota.
Yeah.
I knew that was the case for me too, living in Michigan. Then I had a project in Minnesota, and I left in February, and I thought, and in my mind, I knew I was going to Minneapolis, but somehow I still packed as if I was going somewhere warmer, more snow and colder.
Yeah. Yes.
It was hard to believe.
Yeah, it'll hit you in the face when you leave the airport for sure.
It also gets hotter in Minneapolis than it does in Detroit in the summer. So it's like, you guys, that's some tough people up there.
Yeah, I think people forget that we do get warm here as well.
And I think the whole time I worked up there, people would always say to me, yeah, we all leave. We graduate school, we leave, and then we come back. They go, because you always think, oh, this weather's hard, I don't want to live here. And they go, always come back. And I was like, good to know. Good to know. Anyway, the problem you guys solve again is connecting what and who.
Yeah, as you mentioned, it's traditionally EDI. So it all started with retailers driving some very specific requirements. So as they're bringing in vendors into their ecosystem, they get to call the shots on what data they want to see, when do they want to see it, how they want to see it. And so that created a challenge for all the vendors that were trying to work with them. So SPS really came in as a way not only to help potentially the retailer identify what is it they want to do and how do they want to do it, but then how do we make sure that we're equipping their vendors with the tools to be able to meet those requirements, and then also provide the change management needed to make those changes, because this is thousands and thousands of vendors. And then over time, the logistics organization, so the warehouses holding the goods, the carriers moving the goods, they are a big part of that. They need to make sure that they're complying with the same requirements. And so that's where the whole business has evolved.
It seems like maybe 5-7 years ago, everyone started talking about APIs. And for a while, I didn't know what they were talking about. So people would say, oh, we have an API for that. I just started saying, like, everything was the solution to my life was API. Oh, got leaves on my lawn. The API will take care of it. Everything was an API connection away from solution. And I even heard people say on my podcast, and I'm not knowledgeable enough to say no, but it didn't make sense, is, yeah, we're getting rid of EDI and we're going to move to APIs. That didn't happen. And I think you touched on it. that some of the largest companies in the world are using EDI, and they have millions of transactions per year for the last 40 years in EDI. And they aren't going to quickly move because somebody said APIs are better. Talk about that EDI API transition or lack thereof.
Sure. Yeah, and I'm with you on I'm not nearly technical enough to explain the difference, but it is something that, even 10 years ago, I've been with the organization for almost 11 years. And, when I started, I think people said, oh, API is the way of the future, EDI is going away. And clearly that hasn't really moved the needle. We do see more and more connections, specifically, marketplaces and e-commerce potentially moving that direction. But as you said, EDI is so ingrained in some of these organizations that the idea that they could just rip and replace that for a different technology that I'm not sure in their case gets them a ton of benefits right away because, people talk about it's maybe more modern or more real time. But at the end of the day, in some of these B2B kind of bulk scenarios, I'm not sure getting some milliseconds is enough to justify a change management event.
Yep. And I think I heard at the cybersecurity conference last year down in Ohio that guy said APIs are great, nothing against it. He goes, but as soon as we started developing APIs, it allowed us to plug in very quickly. So someone would say, I'll get you connected via API tomorrow. And he said, and it's created some unsafe scenarios. And so this speed is good until we start talking about security. And I'm not saying APIs are worse security-wise. I don't know. But there's the biggest companies in the world started using EDI. They're the early adopters. And when they say, hey, congratulations, we're going to let you become a vendor, they don't want to hear you say, cool, you can connect to our API. They're going to say, we have an EDI, you connect to us.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think when we look at the definition of EDI, it's electronic data interchange. And I think what we've seen is API can fall into that. In our world, one person could be talking API, one person could be talking, kind of old school EDI. We sit in the middle and make sure that everybody's, able to communicate so that really it becomes how are people talking, not what specific method they're using to do so.
Yep. And we'll get into this in more detail in a minute, but it sounds like, oh, well, this isn't a commercial issue. I don't really care. Let the techies do this. Well, this is truly a big commercial issue because what happens is you're a sales guy, you go out and you win an account and you're delirious. You're high-fiving back at the office and the revenue gets kind of tallied up in advance. And they say, yeah, we're going to start seeing that money rolling in any day now. And you say, well, no, we got to get connected. There'll be a little implementation. And you think that implementation is going to be a week or a month, and it ends up being 90 days. And that means the revenue that you spent in your head isn't coming in. Now you have to go to explain your boss and the boss's boss why that big account that you celebrated isn't here yet. Meanwhile, your customer who said connect to us via EDI, they have maybe empty shelves or they don't have the parts that they wanted from you. So the value you were going to provide to them, they were excited about it on the day you sold it, a lot less 90 days later when you still hadn't delivered anything. So in this environment right now, when 3PLs, carriers are suffering and retailers are not having a great year either, you can't wait. You can't wait.
Yeah. Yeah. Every day you delay on, putting in this automation and trying to, optimize how you're doing things is a day that you're not able to realize the value.
So when someone says EDI, you can kind of go, oh, that's the techie guy. That's not my problem. It is your problem. If you're a sales guy, if you're an owner of a business, if you're working, if you're a big retailer, if you're a big manufacturer, EDI and the delays that sometimes can happen. And again, there's a lot of different ways we can get those connectivity with the EDI, but we got to get it. We got to get the right partner so we can get it at the right speed.